To see the beginning of the modern era means you need to look back at the Baroque period. This era was the first era to succeed the Renaissance, making it the first truly modern era. To truly comprehend the scale of this era, understanding its culture is essential. Advancements in music, art, and more are what led to the success of Baroque culture as it continues to impact modern times.
The name Baroque derived from the Portuguese barroco, which means irregular pear or stone, refers to a cultural or an artistic movement that dominated Europe from the early 17th to the mid-18th centuries. The emphasis of Baroque is on dramatic, exaggerated movement and clear, easily interpreted detail. The Baroque era was heavily influenced by the great art movement that came before it, the Renaissance.
When the Baroque era had started, the stigma of secular music had faded away. Before this era, music was not seen as something that was popular, as its main usage was in church. Eventually, secular music overtook church music in popularity at the pinnacle of the Baroque period. The changes from the Renaissance led to the development of new musical genres. These were opera, oratorio, and cantata. These genres relied on a band of varied instruments and a singer. Operas were usually the most theatrical and largest, while the other genres had less instruments and singers. Within the era, smaller genres such as Baroque, dance, suite, and fugue were introduced to suit specific needs. New musical instruments were invented such as the bassoon and recorded, expanding the trope of sounds music can provide. Opera had created demand for newer and better instruments to create sound for theatrical performance. Using these echoes and repetitions were implemented along the terrace dynamics, creating a constant mood throughout the piece. The Baroque period also marked the time of evolution of musical notation. Musical notation was changed, adding more ornamentation. Ornamentation is adding notes or modifying to make a piece more pleasing to the ears. These changes were put forward by composers such as John Bach.
Johann Bach was a prolific German composer and musician of the Baroque era. He is now regarded as one of the greatest composers of all time, with most of his work being church and instrumental music. Bach's work greatly influenced classical music, earning him the title Master of the Baroque. Some of his most famous works include the Brandenburg Concertos and Bass in B minor.
The Netherlands, Italy, and Spain produced the most notable Baroque painters. They were generally concerned with human subjects or subjects that showed comparable scenarios. The Renaissance circles of power still controlled the country's art directions, and as a result, many commissions were portrayed of royals, religious scenes, and images of royal life and society. The Baroque era, on the other hand, saw an increase in history and landscape paintings as well as portraits. The Baroque period marked a departure from the restraints of the Renaissance and introduced a more emotional and theatrical style in art. It had a profound impact on the development of Western art, and its influence can still be seen in contemporary art today. This era was marked by the influence of famous painters such as
Caravaggio, an Italian painter famous for his dark, dramatically lit works and unidealized models. Some of his most famous paintings include David with the Head of Goliath and The Calling of St. Matthew. Peter Paul Rubens, a German painter known for his work focused on religious figures as well as diplomatic figures of the time. He was hired for various commissions for diplomatic figures as well as church pieces. Some of his most famous works include The Massacre of the Innocents and the Rubens ceilings. Finally, there's Spanish painter Diego Velázquez, A large portion of his work was made up of royal portraits of the King of Spain and his family, including the Queen and their children. Some of his most famous works include Las Meninas and the portrait of Pope Innocent X.
The era of Baroque architecture began in the early 17th century with an aim to inspire the common people with effects of surprise, emotion, and awe, which allowed them to experience a more relaxed, vibrant mood in the churches. Architecture during the Baroque era is known for its excessive ornamentation, dramatic use of light and shadow, and incorporation of curved lines. Unlike the usual use of symmetric and asymmetric lines, the Baroque era incorporated curved sway lines to create dynamic compositions also known as dynamism. Baroque buildings aimed to impress and amaze, often employing illusionistic effects like trompe-l'oeil, which was designed to give viewers a more immersive experience of the three-dimensional. Some influential Baroque architects include Gian Lorenzo Bernini, known for St. Peter's Square and the sculpture of St. Teresa. Also Christopher Wren, famous for St. Paul's Cathedral in London, and Jules Houdin-Monsart, the mind behind the Palace of Versailles in France. Baroque architecture, with its emphasis on emotional intensity and breathtaking spaces, marked a departure from the Renaissance, shaping the architectural styles of its time.
Baroque furniture originated around the late 16th century all the way to the early 18th century. Eventually, this art form expanded throughout multiple parts of Europe, including Italy, France, and Spain. It was vastly recognized by its intricate design and details it includes in the craftsmanship of a piece. This specific design stood for luxury and elegance throughout its artistic movements. Distinctive colors in furniture were used to give it that elegant and dramatic look. Particularly, anything that ranged from a dark purple or a vibrant gold helped give it a wealthy look for the upholstery. Expensive materials were used when crafting this particular type of furniture. Different types of applications such as gold leaves were used to enhance furniture surfaces. Other materials that were frequently used were marble and real wood. Influential furniture during this time included cabinets. Cabinets were built using marquetry technique to craft and create alternating patterns. Apart from being an elegant piece of furniture, it was very practical for storage and enough shelving space to allocate any wardrobe and miscellaneous items. The second piece of furniture included chairs. Chairs were often crafted with rich fabrics including silk and leather for the upholstery. On the other hand, for the base, which were the legs, different kinds of woods would be used such as oak, rosewood, or even ebony. For the extra details, the chairs had tassels and scrolling arms to make it stand out. Comfort was essential, therefore the design of the furniture played a huge role in it. Chairs and couches included pleasant cushioning and supportive backrests. The last piece of Baroque furniture were canopy beds. They consisted of elegant carved wooden frames. Carving often obtained nature such as floral patterns, fruit, and biblical figures such as angels. It was a great way to display elegance during the time period. Two prominent individuals that took part in the Baroque era are Thomas Chippendale and Grinling Gibbons. Thomas Chippendale in 1718 to 1779. Thomas Chippendale was a skilled craftsman specializing in making cabinets and designing furniture. The Chippendale style derived from his name, in which it was a style that focused primarily on Gothic and Chinese design. The next craftsman, Grinling Gibbons, from 1648 to 1721, was a very well known as an experienced sculptor and woodcarver. Grinling during his time had the ability to create outstanding furniture pieces that are marked as very unique during any time period. He constantly focused on creating floral and motif designs. While this video has given you a vision into the past of Baroque culture, this is a mere screenshot of the scope of this era. This era expanded on the Renaissance, bringing forward the future of the world. Without Baroque, the modern world would not be as intrinsic as it would ever be.